What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Ray V. Let's get it.
Sad boy.
Sad boy quote of the day.
F ain't for fields, it's for fantasies. So let's get into our deepest fantasies, baby.
I'll give you a third for him, though.
Comment section. PJ Redacted screams, damn, that V33 guy had elite running back. Doubt he would trade that to that alien bum, though. I think Tua for Dart makes sense. Hey, man, send it. I'm sure this will be an interesting conversation between y'all. That V33 guy does have elite running backs, though, and that alien definitely wants to abduct for real. MVMT proclaims, I hope my league never finds you. I feel that, bro. I feel that every day when I make a video and someone attempts to use my own knowledge against me, or when people try to quote me incorrectly, I might add. It's tough being me for real. We're gonna have some fun today. I'm gonna do a 5 spicy fantasy takes for the season. Disclaimer, these are spicy takes. Spicy takes means that they have low chances of happening. Please don't be that lame mofo that tries to make a bet with me on these takes. I will not succumb to the fragile, sensitive male ego of being egged on in horrible odd situation. I forget what year it was, but the Warriors were down 3-1 in a playoff series, and I very confidently told my group chat that they finna make a comeback. Then one of my boys immediately, probably within the same 5 seconds of my text, said, put 100 on it. What do you mean? You finna give me Vegas odds? Why would I put 100 up only to win 100 back? They have to win 3 straight with their backs against the wall? Huh? Make it make sense. I was fragile back then, so I took the bet though. They lost. It was not the OKC 3-1 comeback. That's not the point of the story though, man, alright? The moral of the story is don't be that guy. It's lame, man. Anyway, let's get spicy. There's going to be a second-year quarterback that breaks out. He's gonna thrive so hard with his brand new wide receiver taking the first 10 picks of the NFL draft. You know what? He's gonna be so great that he'll finish top 3 in MVP voting. He was not the first overall pick. Of course I'm talking about Tyler Shuck, baby. Take me to the promised land. Finna hit Vegas's line right now and get the odds. Never mind, plus 10,000. Yeah, no. And that's for actual MVP. That's not even a top 3 finish. He has the same odds as Jahmyr Gibbs, funny enough, but the path is actually there. Tyler Shuck already showed high flashes as a rookie starter for the Saints, nearly 250 passing yards a game, efficient accuracy, and strong late season momentum. The Saints are clearly building around him instead of replacing him. They added weapons, leaned into an offensive system built by Kellen Moore, and publicly committed to him as a starter. The argument for Tyler Shuck as a top 3 MVP finisher in 2026 comes down to opportunity, archetype, and narrative alignment. First of all, the physical tools are real. Shuck has NFL size, plus arm talent, mobility, and enough aggressiveness to create explosive plays outside structure. Quarterbacks with that combination can make statistical leaps quickly once the game slows down mentally. He's not a game manager archetype. He's the kind of quarterback who can produce highlight-driven seasons, voters notice. Second, situation matters more than people admit in MVP races. The New Orleans Saints appear committed to building around him instead of constantly hedging at quarterback. If Kellen Moore's offense fully opens up the vertical passing game and the Saints offensive line stabilizes, Shuck has the environment for a big jump in efficiency and counting stats. And MVP is heavily narrative based. Voters are drawn to unexpected team turnarounds, young quarterbacks making the leap, and quarterbacks perceived as elevating flawed rosters. If the Saints go from a fringe team to something like 13-4, while Shuck throws for 4,300 plus passing yards, 35 plus passing touchdowns, adds a few rushing scores, and finishes top 5 in EPA per play or passer rating, he instantly becomes one of the biggest stories in football. He instantly becomes the breakout QB who saved the franchise after the post-Drew Brees wilderness. That's going to be the narrative. That's going to be the storyline right there. The NFC also gives him a cleaner path than the AFC. In the AFC, you're fighting yearly monsters like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. The NFC is more fluid. A breakout season can vault someone into MVP conversation quickly if the win total is there. The biggest reason it's believable, though, is historical precedent. Every few years, a quarterback jumps from interesting to MVP candidate almost overnight. You got Cam Newton in 2015, Carson Wentz in 2017, obviously before his injury, Jalen Hurts in 2022, Brock Purdy entering the MVP race in 2023. Shuck fits the profile of nobody saw this coming quarterback if development, coaching, and team success all hit at once. Is it likely? No. Is it plausible enough that you could look like a genius for predicting it early? Definitely. There was a player drafted at his position at an absurd precedence this year. He hasn't even taken a snap yet and has the most guaranteed money at his position already. His team needed pretty much everything else besides this position. Love Island is coming out on June 2nd. Shout out hate watching reality TV shows. Jeremiah Love bombs the Cardinals backfield and the fantasy rankings. But Jeremiah Love will finish outside RB1 range. At maximum, he will finish RB13 overall in PPR formats. Yeah, I could have cheesed it with the standard format, but we spicy today. Y'all seen my orphan team? I traded my 105 and 2027 first for this guy. I hope I'm wrong. The case against Jeremiah Love finishing as a fantasy RB1 in PPR is actually pretty straightforward once you separate talent from fantasy environment, because nobody doubts the talent. He's explosive, fast, efficient, a strong receiver, and arguably the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. Multiple people, analysts view him as a blue chip prospect with elite breakaway ability and top tier draft capital. But fantasy RB1 seasons are usually about volume concentration, red zone dominance, and offensive environment, and that's where the skepticism comes in. The Arizona Cardinals backfield is crowded. Even optimistic projections acknowledge the presence of James Conner, Tyler Algier, and Trey Benson siphoning touches. Arizona's offense may simply not score enough. Quarterback play and overall scoring environment will limit Love's ceiling. Love was never a true 400 touch workhorse in college. He rarely handled 20 plus carries and still has pass protection development needed for every down NFL trust. His profile may produce efficiency more than raw volume. That's great for highlights, but for fantasy RB1s usually need relentless usage. And the bigger issue is league context. To finish as a top 12 PPR running back in 2026, you got running backs like Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, James Cook, Ashton Jeanty, Derrick Henry. That's 8 names already penciled in. Then you have the next wave of high volume veterans and second year breakouts with only 4 spots remaining. There's still Saquon Barkley, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, Marion Hampton, Travion Henderson. That's 5 right there. I'm sure there's a few guys I'm not remembering off the top of my head as well. Breaking into this tier of players would be incredibly hard for a rookie in a committee-ish offense. The cleanest projection is that Love becomes extremely efficient, highly explosive, occasionally weak winning, but not fed enough touches to crack elite season-long totals. So instead of finishing RB5 overall, the likely outcome is something like 240 carries, 45 receptions, 1,400 total yards, 10 touchdowns, which sounds amazing, but in modern PPR scoring, that often lands around RB10 to RB15 range. That's why outside RB1 range and RB13 overall is a defensible ceiling call. He can be excellent in real life while still falling short of true fantasy RB1 volume. The discourse around the Bears is who will truly rise and become the number 1 receiver, the target hog, the true alpha. Rome Odunze, he was nice at times last year, but he wasn't drafted under the Ben Johnson regime. Luther Burden, the next Amon-Ra St. Brown you mean, actually drafted by Ben Johnson and had a late breakout his rookie year just like ARSB, but his breakout did coincide with the injury to Odunze and DJ Moore, right? Ben Johnson is gonna make him Bears version of ARSB, right? Didn't Ben Johnson just say to buy all the Luther Burden stock? Surely that's inside trading, right? I don't really care, because the true number 1 receiver of this team will be the guy drafted at 10th overall last year. Colston, Love Island, Love Bomber, Loveland. There's a reason they drafted him over Tyler Warren, and that's because he's him. The case for Colston Loveland leading the Chicago Bears in receiving over Luther Burden and Rome Odunze is honestly stronger than most people realize. The biggest reason? Ben Johnson's offense naturally funnels targets to elite mismatch tight ends. People think wide receiver 1 automatically means the leading receiver, but in modern NFL offenses, especially Ben Johnson style systems, the middle of the field mismatch player often becomes the true engine of the passing game. Think Sam Laporta in Detroit. Loveland fits that role perfectly. Oversized slot weapon, elite separator versus linebackers and safeties, strong zone beater, reliable underneath target for Caleb Williams, and the production has already started. By the second half of 2025, Loveland wasn't just good for a rookie tight end, he was operating like a featured receiver. Top 5 among tight ends in targets, catches, and yards from week 7 onward, a 26% target rate, and nearly 12 targets per game over the final stretch. That matters because rookie tight ends almost never dominate early unless they're truly special. The Bears also traded DJ Moore, which removed a massive chunk of volume from the offense. The offense will revolve around the trio of Odunze, Burden, and Loveland, but Loveland may be the safest weekly role of the 3. And here's the key strategic point. Burden and Odunze may just cannibalize each other. Burden is likely the explosive yak and manufactured touch weapon. Odunze is the perimeter X receiver and downfield boundary option. Loveland gets the high efficiency middle of the field work, chain moving targets, red zone usage, and coverage matchup exploitation. That role often produces the most consistent receiving totals. There's also a realistic possibility that Caleb Williams simply trusts Loveland the most. Young quarterbacks frequently lean on elite tight ends because they provide larger throwing windows and easier answers against pressure. Late in 2025, that already appeared to happen. Loveland led the Bears in catches as a rookie and exploded in the playoffs with 137 yards against Green Bay. Meanwhile, there are legitimate questions for both wide receivers. Odunze has flashy wide receiver 1 ability, but dealt with injuries and inconsistency, and butter for hands. Burden's efficiency is elite, but analysts still question whether his role scales cleanly into massive target volume. Loveland doesn't need 1,500 yards to lead the team. In a balanced Ben Johnson offense, something like 96 catches, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns could realistically outpace Burden's explosive but lower volume 1,000-yard season and Odunze's deeper, less consistent target profile. The strongest argument is simple. Loveland may not be the Bears' most talented receiver, but he could absolutely become Caleb Williams' most trusted one. The Dolphins drafted 3 wide receivers this offseason. Chris Bell has all the target hog hype. Caleb Douglas was actually drafted before Chris Bell. Kevin Coleman Jr. is there too. Malik Willis just came over and the coaching regime is brand new. Greg Dulcich is getting all the sleeper hype on him as well. But the guy who leads this offense in receiving will be Malik Washington. I may only be saying this because I didn't get Chris Bell in any of my leagues yet. I may only be saying this because the Malik x Malik connection sounds hard as hell. The number 1 option of a team that is projected to be down most of the season, playing from behind, forced to pass, give me Malik Washington. The argument for Malik Washington leading the Miami Dolphins in receiving in 2026 starts with one simple fact. The entire offense has been reset. No Tyreek Hill, no Jaden Waddle, no Tua Tagovailoa. That means there are suddenly 250 plus vacated targets, a brand new quarterback in Malik Willis, and no established wide receiver 1 hierarchy. And in chaotic situations like that, quarterbacks often gravitate towards the receiver who gets open the fastest, works the middle of the field, and creates easy completions. That's Malik Washington. His skill set actually aligns extremely well with Willis's strengths and weaknesses. Willis is a mobile quarterback with a huge arm, but historically he's been most comfortable throwing quick hitters, crossers, screens, and immediate timing routes after extending plays. Washington thrives in those areas. He's not a classic outside alpha, but he's explosive underneath, dangerous after the catch, and naturally available as a pressure release option. That matters because Miami's offense under Jeff Hafley and Bobby Slowick is expected to become more run heavy and structurally conservative than the old Mike McDaniel Tua version. And importantly, Washington already has something nobody else in the room has: continuity. He's essentially the only returning Dolphins wide receiver with meaningful experience in the system and organization. NBC Sports even described him as the dean of the wide receiver room entering 2026. That matters more than people think when a new quarterback arrives. Quarterbacks under pressure almost always build chemistry fastest with slot receivers, motion receivers, and easy separation targets, not necessarily the best athlete. There's also a very realistic statistical pathway here. People hear team leading receiver and imagine 1,500 yards, but on a rebuilding Dolphins offense with Malik Willis, the leading receiver might only need 82 catches, 950 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That is absolutely attainable for Washington if he becomes Willis's chain mover and safety blanket. And there are signs this is already the expectation internally. Multiple Dolphins-focused reports and beat writers specifically identify Washington as the most likely breakout candidate in the new look offense. The sneaky big reason this could happen: Willis may prefer trust over star power. When quarterbacks are adapting to a new offense, they often hyper-target the receiver who is where he's supposed to be, available quickly, and reliable after the catch. Think Amon-Ra St. Brown early with Jared Goff, Tank Dell with CJ Stroud, Rashee Rice with Patrick Mahomes. Washington fits that archetype far more than Miami's other receivers. There's just a stylistic fit between Willis and Washington's underneath game. So the strongest version of this argument is this: Malik Washington does not need to become a superstar to lead Miami in receiving. He just needs to become Malik Willis's first read. The spiciest take of the day: there's a veteran quarterback that had all the promise in the world, got injured, got booted to another team, is essentially getting paid by their former team while their new team is only paying them like a mil. The quarterback he's in a QB competition with is from the 2024 draft class. That quarterback was a top 10 pick that year. Both quarterbacks throw with the same hand. No, it's not the Falcons with Tua and Penix. I'm talking about JJ McCarthy and Kyler Murray. The best case scenario that Viking fans are truly raving for is McCarthy beating out Murray and solidifying himself as the future in Minnesota. Who's to say Kyler Murray's even good still? He just got booted out of Arizona of all places, the place that just drafted a running back at 3rd overall and paying the most guaranteed money to that position ever, while still having to pay the rest of Kyler Murray's contract. I think it's possible for McCarthy to take this job opportunity away from Murray. The argument for JJ McCarthy winning the QB battle over Kyler Murray and starting all year long for the Minnesota Vikings actually comes down to one thing: the Vikings may care more about long-term ceiling than short-term stability. Yes, most media coverage currently frames Murray as the safe favorite because of experience and pedigree, but that's exactly why the contrarian case for McCarthy exists. Because if McCarthy wins the job, it probably means Kevin O'Connell believes he has become the better fit for the offense, not merely the cheaper option. And stylistically, McCarthy may fit what KOC wants better than Kyler Murray does. McCarthy's strengths are timing throws, under center play action, rhythm passing, middle of the field anticipation, and operating structure cleanly. This is basically the DNA of KOC's offense. Kyler Murray, meanwhile, has historically been at his best in shotgun, extending plays, improvising, and creating outside structure. He's dangerous, but he also changes the geometry of an offense. The Vikings built their roster around a timing and spacing system featuring Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. That system may ultimately function more smoothly with McCarthy distributing than Murray freelancing. The second reason: organizational investment. Minnesota spent years developing McCarthy. First round draft capital, a lost rookie year due to injury, then a developmental year in 2025. If he loses the job permanently in 2026, it essentially means the franchise failed on a top 10 QB investment. Teams do not abandon that path lightly unless the veteran alternative is clearly superior. And Murray may not be viewed internally as a long-term answer anyway. His contract structure matters here. The Vikings signed him to a low-risk 1-year deal after Arizona released him. That's not franchise savior treatment, that's prove-it treatment. So if McCarthy looks even close to Murray in camp, preseason, and practice command, the tie probably goes to the younger quarterback with developmental upside. There's also a sneaky football reason this could happen. McCarthy's traits often improve dramatically with experience. Even critics acknowledge the tools: mobility, arm talent, leadership, processing flashes, and natural play action ability. His biggest issues have been consistency and mechanics. Those are exactly the kind of problems elite QB coaching staffs believe they can fix. Meanwhile, Murray's weaknesses are already mostly known: occasional structure breaking habits, durability concerns, and volatility under pressure. At some point, coaching staffs stop asking, who who is more talented right now and start asking who can execute our offense the cleanest for 17 games, the answer could absolutely become McCarthy by August. And once he wins the job, because if the Vikings start something like 5-2, Jefferson remains elite, and McCarthy is playing efficient point guard football, AOC probably won't disrupt offensive chemistry just to rotate back to Murray. McCarthy does not need to become Josh Allen overnight to hold the job. He just needs to become efficient, on schedule, low turnover, and trusted by the coaching staff. Something like 3,400 yards, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, plus an 11-win season would be more than enough to cement him as the Vikings' full season starter. And honestly, the strongest argument is the Vikings may have signed Kyler Murray to push JJ McCarthy, not replace him. Superflex or 2 QB leagues, I'm buying low on McCarthy either way, especially when it's confirmed that Kyler Murray beat him out. I hope y'all like the spiciness that we was on today, and if any of those hit, best believe I'm bringing them up all the time. And if they don't, we finna say they were just spicy takes for a reason. A true win-win if I do say so myself. Maybe y'all rocking with me and hit Vegas or send an offer out or something, but never forget your daily dose of send that trade. Send it. Send it. That's it for today, though. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, rebuilds fade, dynasties reign.
Call me a lover boy, simp, Libra. It's more than love sick. I got a fever. Feelings overloading. Not to be a diva. Standing 10 toes down. I'm not gonna leave you.